Okay. return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to what you are, return to who you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again, return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to what you are, return to who you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again, return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Welcome. Welcome to a place for us to come together from near and far. If you're far, I can see it if you comment on the live stream, in possibility, in cynicism, in gratitude, in despair, and in yearning for repair, for healing, and for wholeness. Welcome back to the Day of Atonement. I'm honored to be here on the Bima with our student Rabbi Jenna Shah, and with our amazing lay leaders, Michael Allen, Joe Horowitz, and Daniel Gordon. I want to invite you, if you haven't already found a machzor, a prayer book, to find one, either a hard copy, or if you're live streaming, there's a link in the live stream comments. So you can find an electronic machzor there. And if you're here in the building with us, I want to name that we as a congregation are committed to your security. So I'm meant to go over some key safety features of the building. We're only using the main door to enter and exit throughout Yom Kippur. Also for the children's program tomorrow morning, just this main exit. So please help us with that plan. But in the event of an emergency, there are exits on either side, in the front and the back. And our ushers in the front will help direct you. And in the unlikely event that we must evacuate the building, our meeting point will be at 4th and East Capitol in front of Grubbs. And as you leave today, just take a moment to thank our many volunteers and law enforcement for helping to keep us safe. I'd also like to thank Reformation for yet again welcoming us into their beautiful sanctuary. I also want to name, before we really get started, that many of us, of course, are planning to fast during this time together, and many are not. And our tradition teaches us that each person knows their body best. And when fasting is dangerous, it's not a mitzvah, as much as it is a mitzvah if a person is able to safely do it. So as we move through Yom Kippur, let's always keep that in mind, supporting those who are fasting and supporting those who are not. With that said, we're ready. I'd like to invite the Hiller family up to lead us in our candle lighting as we turn to page 128 of our machzor. And this will be a test of if the Hiller family finished up with their pre-Yom Kippur meal early enough. I don't see them coming up. Oh, wow. Jenna, do you want to call up your mother?
Yeah, Mom.
I see her right here.
Come on out.
Welcome back. We're on page 128. Can you use matches?
And you can light the candles. Right
Well, then you're great. Let's read together. We light this candle in memory of all our loved ones. We light it also in the memory of those who perished in the Holocaust, and for the innocent victims of terror in our own troubled times. By lighting this candle, we remember those we loved, as well as those who have no one to remember them. May their memories be a blessing. And you can light the Yizkor candle down below as well. Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim. Shekoach. Thank you. As we move to page 129 and get our pyrotechnics together, I'd like to invite Leslie Feeder up to offer some words from Ecclesiastes Rabbah, an early medieval midrash on page 129. Thank you so much.
We enter the world in the same way we depart. We enter with a cry and go with a cry. We enter with weeping and go with weeping. We enter with love and go with love. We enter with a sigh and go with a sigh. We enter without knowing and go without knowing. It has been taught in the name of Rabbi Meir, when we enter the world, our hands are clenched, as if to say, the whole world is mine, I shall inherit it. But when we take leave of it, our hands are spread open, as if to say, I have taken nothing from the world.
Shekoach. Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer le'olam, achor ve'ayam, rishu shel hamayim, le'rak hashamayim, tfilat ha'adam, achor ve'ayam, rishu shel hamayim, le'rak hashamayim, tfilat ha'adam. My God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart. I'd like to invite up the Kaufman-Levine family to lead us in a responsive reading.
We come together tonight to probe our weakness and our strength and to fill the gap between what we profess and what we practice. We come to quiet the turbulence of the heart, restrain its impulsiveness, and check the eagerness of our every muscle to outsmart and outdistance our neighbors.
We come for self-renewal and regeneration.
We come to be strengthened in our determination to be free, never to compromise with idolatry or bow to dictatorship, cringe before autocracy or succumb to force. We come to orient ourselves beyond the comprehension of our compounded dust.
Make consistent our impulse to do good, for one good deed leads to another, and one transgression to another.
We must begin with ourselves, but not end with ourselves. Turning to Shuvah means when you have done wrong, then counteract it by doing right. There are 3 prerequisites for turning: eyes that see, ears that listen, and an understanding heart. If you have all 3, you are ready to turn and be healed.
Yasher koach. Thank you.
Arzaru Allah Sadi, Ula Yisrael Simacha. Arzaru Allah Sadi, Ula Yisrael Simacha.
Before we embark on the sacred work together, before we commit to changing our fate as individuals and as a community, there's something critical that we have to do. We acknowledge our past attempts to make tshuva in the way that they have, to some extent, to a significant extent, fallen short. We invoke Yeshiva Shel Mala, the Yeshiva Shel Mata, the heavenly court and the earthly courts, and we are upfront about our failures, our hypocrisies, and our limitations. We do not pretend that the year to come will be perfect. We know that it absolutely will not be. We absolutely will not be. As we move through Kol Nidrei 3 times, we consider, instead of making promises, what can we do? Instead of perfection, what can we aspire to? What limitations do we need to come to terms with? And what shortcomings can we never accept from ourselves? Page 131.
Beshiva Shel Mahala, Uvishiva Shel Mata, Al Dat HaMakom, Bal Dat HaKahal, Anu Matirin Lahipalel, Ihim Hoavaryanim.
I'd like to welcome Dean and Allison May Rosen up to hold our beautiful Torah scrolls for the first chanting of Kol Nidrei. Please rise in body or in spirit as the ark is opened. This one too. Yeah.
Kol Nidrei v'yasarei v'charamei v'konamei v'achinuyei v'achinusei u'shavuos adindana Udiishtebana Udiacharimna Udiasarna Anavshata Ana Miyom Kippurim Zeh Ad Yom Kippurim Haba Leinu Letova Kol Hom Icharat Navon Kol Hom Yehon Sharan Shivitin Betelin Mavutalim Lashiririn Vela Kayamin Nidrana La Nidrei Viesarana Lo Asare Ushvuatana La Shavuot.
Page 132. All vows, oaths, and promises of any kind that we make to God between this Yom Kippur and next, we hereby publicly retract in the event that we should be unable to fulfill them, and hereby declare our intention to be absolved of them. With me, forgive the wrongdoings of this people and all who dwell in their midst, according to the greatness of your covenantal love. For in all of us is unwitting transgression. We ask for forgiveness from you, our God, only for that which we pledge to you but cannot fulfill. We do not ask you to forgive our transgressions against our fellow humans, as we must ask forgiveness directly from those whom we have wronged. In this way do we accept responsibility for our shortcomings. We long to clear our conscience. We acknowledge we have not always been true to our inner calling. We recognize we have violated our highest vision of ourselves. You made us in your image, and we have fallen short. Release us from all that binds us to our imperfections. I'd like to welcome up Tia Michaels and Bonnie Hillsberg to hold our Torahs for the second chanting of Kol Nidrei.
Kol Nidrei Vesorei Vacharamei Vekanamei Vechinuyei Vekinusei Ushavuot Darna Uraishtabana Uracharimna Udi asar no. Al nafshatano. Miyom Kippurim zeh ad Yom Kippurim haba aleinu letova. Kol hon icharat navehon. Kol hon yehon yehon sharon shavikin shavitin betelin umavutalin la shahirin vela kayamin nidrana la nidrei vesarana la esare ushavuatana la shavuot.
I think that definitely counts as keeping the Torah upright. Yasher koach. For the final repetition of Kol Nidrei, I'd like to invite up Noah and Sam Meyerson to hold our Torahs. And we're grateful, as every year, to have David Zielinski offering the melody on the cello. Oh, yeah. Microphone's doing that too. Oh, one more time. All right. And Sam, you can come over this way and take the Torah from Dia. This one. A little bit more upright. With your hand in between.
Like this.
This hand down. Slower.
On the front.
Yeah.
This.
Yeah. It's been a while. This in the middle. Perfect. You got it? Beautiful. Yasher koach. Yasher koach. All right.
If you're not already seated, you may temporarily grab a seat.
When the ark is.
As I shared on Rosh Hashanah, the Baruch is like the play ball of prayer. So as we shift from our everyday lives into the intensity of the next 25 hours, let's use the Baruch as a chance to think about what you need to allow yourself to be present. What do you need to connect to? What do you need to disconnect from to allow yourself to be present? We turn to page 134 and rise as we're able for the Baruch.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Please be seated. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, V'nashuva, V'nashuva, Chadesh, Chadesh, Yameinu kekedem. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha.
Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, V'nashuva,
Page 135. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו like to invite Lisa Hershey Zurer to lead us in a poem by Alexander Massey as we prepare for the Shema.
Here, let the whisper of the infinite enter the secret chamber of your heart. Yearning is a gift. It pierces the shell you build around who you truly are. The source of kindness and the source of justice are in truth one source, the only one, the source of love. Wrestle with the infinite. Limbs entwined, skin on skin, breath on breath. You and the great other can meet yourselves, touch, dissolve, become one. There is no other, no otherness. All that has been, all that is, and all that shall be, all comes from one, and all is one. We all flower from the one root. We are kin.
Yasher Koach, page 136. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. We continue silently through page 138.
Adonai Elohim Emet. The Micha Mocha directly translates to who is like you. We spend so much time worrying about what other people think about us. And the Micha Mocha reminds us about the liberatory power of believing that we're unique and recognizing that no one is quite like us. We turn to Micha Mocha on page 139. Micha Mocha Beilim Adonai, Micha Mocha Nedar B'Kodesh, Nora Tehilo Osefele, Malehu Teharo Vanecha Bokeyam Livnei Moshe, Ze'eli anu ve'ameru Adonai imlo le'olam va'ed. Ve'ne'emar kifat Adonai et Yaakov ugolo meyad hazak mimenu. Ayanai nai 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 nai. Ayanai nai nai. Adonai Gal Yisrael. Amen. The news is anything but calming. Jewish tradition invites us into this palace of time, as Abraham Joshua Heschel teaches, a palace of time that's Shabbat. and all the more so on Yom Kippur, which is the Shabbat of Shabbatot. We're invited into a palace and time where we escape from everything else and allow ourselves into the peace that can come when we step away. And that's what the Hashkivenu invites us to do. We turn to Hashkivenu on page 140.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Hamidenu Malkeinu L'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Hamidenu Malkeinu L'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom Hamidenu Malkeinu L'chaim. L'chaim. L'chaim.
I recently learned about the concept of a doorknob conversation from a friend of mine who's a therapist. She taught that a doorknob conversation is right as someone at the very end of their session is leaving the door, they reveal the very thing that you've been trying to get them to reveal all session. We have so many opportunities to connect with ourselves, to connect to God in silent reflection over the next 25 hours. And you might be holding that thing in that is like that doorknob conversation with God or with yourself. And we have so many Amidas because you have the chance to wait. If it takes until tomorrow night, it takes till tomorrow night to let it out. So, but we can at least begin that together as we turn to the Amidah on page 142. We'll begin silently, and then you'll have a chance to go from 142 to 150. From page 148 to page 150, there is an opportunity for you to engage in reflective poetry and questions, if that is helpful. And we will join back together at the end, and you will grab a seat when you are done. In just a second, you will rise as you're able, and we'll turn to page 142. We'll grab a seat when we're done, and we will join together for the Amidah. Please face east.
Adonai Ananana Satai Tiftach Yananana Ufi Yagi Tegilatecha Yananana Adonai Yananana Satai Tiftach Yananana Ufi Yagi Tegilatecha. page 147. Continue your own pace or be seated if you're ready. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasih Leolam. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasih Leolam. Ki Ata Hu Melech Adon L'chol HaShalom. Ki Ata Hu Melech Adon L'chol HaShalom. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasih Leolam. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasih Leolam. V'tzov be'enecha leravech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasih Leolam. Shalom Yisrael Amcha Tasih Leolam. Tasih Leolam. Tasih Page 151. Our next prayer, Shema Kolenu, after its first line, is entirely composed of different verses from Tanakh, only shifted from the singular to the plural voice. These fears, these worries that we have for our future, for our own health and strength, and our ability to truly trust the people around us to care for us when we need it. These fears articulated in this prayer have been shared by our ancestors for thousands of years. When we turn the page, we'll meet our anxiety with confidence and connection, but for now, we chant this collage of anxiety, of vulnerability, and maybe of some hope, both ancient and our own. Shema Kolenu Adonai Eloheinu, chus v'rachem aleinu, v'kabel b'rachamim uvratzon et tfilateinu. Hashivenu, Adonai elecha nashuva, chadesh yameinu kekedem. Al tashlichenu milfanecha, ורוח קודשך אל תיקח ממנו, אל תשליכנו לעת זקנה, ככלות כוחנו, אל תעזבנו, אל תעזבנו, אדוני אלוהינו, אל תרחק ממנו. עשה עמנו אות לטובה, ויראו שונאינו, ויבשו כי אתה, אדוני, עזרתנו וניחמתנו. כי לך, אדוני, הולכנו, אתה תענה, אדוני אלוהינו, אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, קבל לנו. Page 152. כי אנו עמך ואתה אלוהינו, אנו בניך
Ve'ata Avinu, Anu Avadecha, Ve'ata Adonenu, Anu Kahalecha, Ve'ata Chelkeinu, Anu Nachalatecha, Ve'ata Goralenu, Anu Tzomecha, Ve'ata Ro'enu, Anu Charmecha, Ve'ata Notreinu, Anu Fa'ulatecha, Ve'ata Yotzreinu, Anu Rayatecha, Ve'ata Dodenu, Anu Segulatecha, Ve'ata Keroveinu, Anu Amecha, Ve'ata Malkeinu, Anu Ma'amirecha, Ve'ata Ma'amireinu.
I'd like to invite up Lori Solnick to lead us in a Shamnu on page 153.
Our liturgy and its music offer us a rich tapestry of inspiration. I was going to call it a veritable smorgasbord, but let's not conjure up buffets at this point. I'd like to reflect on the music, and there's plenty of it. Just about our entire service is sung, at least its Hebrew parts. This is by design. When prayer is coupled with carefully curated, stirring melodies, the combination can help us transcend our own boundaries. We're certainly not unique in our use of music, as anybody who's been moved by Gregorian chant or Buddhist mantras, modern Christian rock, or even a catchy commercial jingle knows. Music helps embed the message. Back in the day, when we had a holy temple or two in Jerusalem, the Levites would amplify their prayer using harps and trumpets and drums and crashing cymbals and bells and flutes and their voices. Because music in general heightens our emotions. Ever watch a melodrama? The music often tells us as much as the dialogue. If words are intellectual, music is purely emotional, and the blending of the two can be magical. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur bring us melodies that are used only during the high holy days, and that's by design. We hear the call of the shofar in a set order of increasingly complex and intense toots. And how moving is the Kol Nidrei prayer when chanted with aching passion. The Avinu Malkeinu melody is so touching that even Barbra Streisand recorded it, as did the rock group Fish. Now we've come to the Vidui, our yearly communal confession, which begins with the Ashamnu. The Ashamnu is an alphabetical acrostic poem listing our collective shortcomings. Oh, not mine, not yours, ours. There's a sin for every letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Of course there is. We recite these together, even though we personally may not have done all the things for which we are asking forgiveness. So why aloud, why in unison? Because each of us may not have committed every one of these specific offenses, but we as a community, as a congregation, as a city, as a nation, as a people, and as a species surely have. And our fates are intertwined. We move through this sacred time together. Ashamnu's refrain, the ay-ay-ay part, has always captivated me. To me, it's more than just a musical oy vey. It was how my European parents conveyed their displeasure, their dismay, disappointment, even their despair. Those of you familiar with Mexican Spanish will also recognize the intent of ay, ay, ay. I invite you to see the refrain as a nigun, a wordless melody that can give voice to our personal disappointment at having missed our mark, at having not lived up to our potential. It invites us to ask ourselves, what is my own private ay, ay, ay all about? Before we recite the traditional Ashamnu, let's take a look at an alternative version. Not the one that we should emulate, but surely one that we can all relate to. Hoboken's Rabbi Robert Scheinberg offers us an anti-Ashamnu. It's filled with defenses that we've all employed in one way or another this past year. Please join me in the ay, ay, ay refrains, and when you do, take time to consider what your own private ay, ay, ay means to you. In a moment, we'll rise, we'll make a fist with our right hand, and with a gentle rhythm at the chanting of each word, we lightly tap the left side of our chest where our hearts reside. We do this as a wake-up call to our collective hearts to do better. But first, the anti-Ashamnu. And bear with me. It wasn't our fault. It wasn't us. It wasn't that bad. They deserved it anyway. Everyone was doing it. Nobody got hurt. Get over it already. You're too sensitive. Ay, 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 ay. It's just the way we are. Nobody's perfect. We had to. We needed to. We couldn't pass it up. Think of everything good that we do. You're making a big deal out of nothing. It's not nearly as bad as what a lot of other people get away with every day. Ay, 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 ay. Just look at it from our perspective. Think of everything we've gone through. We never claimed to be saints. Why won't you forgive us already? And if we think of God as a parent, those of us who are parents here, if we heard this version of Ashamnu, we would surely roll our eyes, as is our heavenly parent right now. But now, please rise and join me for the real Ashamnu on page 153. First in Hebrew, then in English, and then please remain standing. Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi, Hevinu, Vehirshanu, Zadnu, Hamasnu, Tafalnu Sheker, ay, 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 ya da 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 Yatsnu Ra Kisavnu Latsnu Maradnu Niyatsnu Sararnu Avinu Ashanu Tsararnu Kishinu Oref Ay ay da 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 ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Rashnu, Shichatnu, Tiavnu, Ta'inu, Titanu, ay 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 ay. Please read with me in the English, starting from the column on the left. We have acted wrongly. We have been untrue. We have gained unlawfully. We have defamed. We have harmed others. We have wrought injustice. We have zealously transgressed. And we have hurt and have told lies. We have improperly advised, and we have covered up the truth. And we have laughed in scorn. We have misused responsibility and have neglected others and have stubbornly rebelled. We have offended. We have perverted justice. We have stirred up enmity. We have kept ourselves from change. We have reached out to evil. We have shamelessly corrupted, and we have treated others with disdain. Yes, we have thrown ourselves off course, and we have tempted and misled. Please remain standing.
Yasher Koach, page 154. Ve'al kulam Eloha selichot Slach lanu mechalanu Slach lanu mechalanu Kapelanu.
You know the mysteries of the universe and the secrets of every living thing. You probe our innermost depths. You examine our feelings, our thoughts. Nothing is hidden from you. Nothing escapes you. Together may it be your will to forgive us all our sins, to pardon all our iniquities,
to grant us atonement for all our transgressions.
It is customary to tap one's chest with one's fist with each phrase, as transgressions are presumed to emanate from the heart. For the wrongs we have done before you under duress or by choice.
We have wronged before you by misusing our minds.
For the wrongs we have done before you willingly or unwillingly.
We have wronged before you by hardening our hearts.
For the wrongs we have done before you by confusing love with lust.
We have wronged before you openly and in private.
For the wrongs we have done before you by inflicting lasting hurts.
We have wronged before you by misusing our words.
For the wrongs we have done before you by deceiving another person.
We have wronged before you with malicious intent.
For the wrongs we have done before you by disrespecting our parents and teachers.
We have wronged before you both intentionally and by mistake.
For the wrongs we have done before you by acts of desecrating creation.
We have wronged before you with our carelessness.
For the wrongs we have done before you by not resisting the impulse to evil.
We have wronged before you when we fail to do the right thing. Ve'al kulam Eloha selichot Slach lanu mechalanu Slach lanu mechalanu Kapelanu.
For the wrongs we have done before you by using people as stepping stones.
We have wronged before you for pretending to emotions we do not feel.
For the wrongs we have done by using the sins of others to excuse our own.
We have wronged by denying our responsibility for our own misfortune.
For the wrongs we have done before you by condemning in our children and our parents the faults we tolerate in ourselves.
We have wronged before you by not facing our own deficiencies.
For the wrongs we have done by passing judgment without knowing all the facts.
We have wronged before you by talebearing.
For the wrongs we have done before you by dishonesty in our accumulations.
By remembering the cost of things, but not their value.
For the wrongs we have done by overindulging our children's wants while neglecting their needs.
We have wronged before you by setting ourselves as poor examples.
For the wrongs we have done before you by not crying out for peace.
We have wronged before you by closing our hearts and hesitating.
For the wrongs we have done before you by not stopping evil in its tracks.
We have wronged before you by closing our hearts and hesitating.
For the wrongs we have done before you by our silence and indifference.
We have wronged before you by not speaking out to change that which is wrong. Ve'hakulam Elohai Selichot Slach lanu mechalanu Slach lanu mechalanu We remain standing as I invite Howard Crystal and Ann Mesnikoff to lead us in a prayer by Marion Wright Edelman.
Where small babies die of cold quite legally. O God, forgive our rich nation where small children suffer from hunger quite legally. O God, forgive our rich nation where toddlers and small children die from guns sold quite legally. O God, forgive our rich nation that lets children be the poorest group of citizens quite legally.
O God, forgive our rich nation that lets the rich continue to get more at the expense of the poor quite legally. O God, forgive our rich nation, which thinks security rests in missiles rather than in mothers and in bombs rather than in babies. O God, forgive our rich nation for not giving you sufficient thanks by giving to others their daily bread. O God, help us never to confuse what is quite legal with what is just and right in your sight.
Asher Koach. You may be seated.
We have confronted the wrongs we have committed, and now we acknowledge the acts that inspired us to greater kindness. By recalling them, may we be moved to perform them, repeat them, to build on them, and to have them guide us toward a better existence. Keep us far from pity, self-regard, from anger, impatience, despair, gossip, and all bad traits. Grant us the gift of seeing other people's merits and not their faults. Together, we thank you, our God, for the many opportunities we have for doing good, standing up for justice when we see another mistreated, remembering the good in others even when we are upset with them, expressing gratitude to those who help us, giving freely to tzedakah, to charity, financial acts of justice, apologizing to those we needlessly hurt, returning a found object to its owner, bringing comfort to the sick, helping others to find work, shelter, and their own strength, giving the gift of laughter, embracing change when it is good, resisting change when it is bad.
One of the many images that we encounter throughout Yom Kippur is the image of gates. And this is one of the first times that we encounter it with Pitu Li on page 157, where we're invited to open the gates of justice. We're invited to imagine what it would look like for the gates of justice to be opened. Page 157 for Pitu Li.
Pitu Li Sha'arei Tzedek Avovam Odeyah Pitu Li Sha'arei Tzedek Avovam Odeyah
Adonai, tzadikim yavohu vo. Pichuli sha'arei tzedek avovam odea.
Page 158. We now move into a series of piyutim, traditional poetry, and this first one articulates our deep desire for this time that we're spending in reflection over Yom Kippur to have a tangible impact in our lives when it's finished.
Tzidkatenu mi boker Yira'el Pidyoneinu ad arev Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai 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 Ya'aleh Inuyeinu me'elev Ve'yavo Slichateinu mi-boker Ve'yira'el Natateinu ad arev Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai.
We welcome up April Rubin and Bruce Ray to lead us in a prayer by Rabbi Yitzhak Luna. On page 158.
Ribono shel olam, I hereby forgive whoever has hurt me, and whoever has done me any wrong, whether it was deliberately or by accident, whether it was done by word or by deed, in this incarnation or in previous ones. May no one be punished on my account. May it be your will, Adonai my God, God of my parents, that I sin no more, that I do not revert to my old ways, that I do not anger you anymore by my actions. May I do not do that which is evil in your sight. Wipe away the sins that I have committed with your great compassion, but not through sickness or suffering. May these words of my mouth and the prayers that are in my heart be acceptable before you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer.
Please join us if you are so inclined in the Luchuna Ranana prayer on the top of page 159. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Ladonai. Lechuna Ranana, Nechula Ranana, Nechula Ranana, Ladonai. Noria, Noria, Letzor Ishenu, Nekad Matnam Tada. Noria, Noria, Letzor Ishenu, Bizni Rod Noria Lo. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Ladonai. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Ladonai.
One of my favorite activities to do with kids when introducing prayer is ask them to think about what it would feel like if they were doing an art project, and the art project and the thing that they were creating was the entire world. And in just a second, we're going to turn to a series of prayers of piyutim, of poetry about creation and about molding of different things. So as we turn into these things and in these piyutim, an invitation to think about what things and which elements of your life you need to mold in the coming year. Han Shamalach on page 159.
Hanshamalach, Hanshamalach, O Hanshamalach vehaguf palach chusalamalach. O Hanshamalach vehaguf palach chusalamalach. Hanshamalach, Hanshamalach, O Hanshamalach vehaguf palach chusalamalach. O Hanshamalach vehaguf palach chusalamalach.
We now shift into our second imagery of crafting and creating, and that is in the clay as the hand of the potter, as we join Dick Frankel in the video of him leading us through this beautiful piyut.
וברצותו מקצר. כן אנחנו בידיך, חסד נוצר. לברית הבט, לברית הבט, ועל תפן היצר.
As clay in the hand of the potter, to be thickened or thinned. We are in your hands. Preserve us with your love. Remember your covenant, not our imperfection.
La brita bet, la brita bet, ve'al tefen ha'yetzer.
As stone in the hand of the mason to be broken or preserved, we are in your hands. Grant us strength. Remember your covenant, not our defects.
La brita bet, la brita bet, ve'al tefen ha'yetzer.
As iron in the hand of the blacksmith, to be thrust into fire or withdrawn. We are in your hands. Help us to forge our faith. Remember your covenant, not our weaknesses.
Labri tabe, labri tabe, Vialte v'nayetzer.
Rudder in the hand of the helmsman, to be steered or to drift. We are in your hands. Prevent us from drifting. Remember your covenant, not our misdirection.
Labri tabe, labri tabe, Vialte v'nayetzer.
As silver in the hand of the smelter, to be fused among jewels or melted to a lump, we are in your hands. Let us shine with your brilliant light. Remember your covenant, not our deficiencies.
Labri tabe, labri tabe, Vialte v'nayetzer.
In just a minute, we're going to turn to the Avinu Malkeinu, where it's this beautiful imagery where we have Avinu, father, parent, and Malkeinu, king, ruler, side by side. It invites this image of deep intimacy and closeness and comfort that comes with a parent, and then deep reverence that comes with a ruler. And it invites us to see ourselves and our relationship with God anywhere along that spectrum, and invites us to think of the metaphor that we need to most connect. I'm going to invite up the Neufeld Cross family to open the ark, and we rise as we're able for Avinu Malkeinu on page 161.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed le'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu ma'asim. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, ein lanu melech ela ata. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh imanu laman shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu, chadesh aleinu shana tova. Avinu Malkeinu, afer atzad oivenu. Avinu Malkeinu, salach u'machala chalavonotenu. Avinu Malkeinu, hachazirenu b'tshuva shalema lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, shalach refuah shalema lecholim. Avinu Malkeinu, katvenu b'sefer chaim tovim. Avinu Malkeinu, katvenu b'sefer geula v'yeshua. Avinu Malkeinu, katvenu b'sefer parnasa v'chalkala. Avinu Malkeinu, katvenu b'sefer zechuyot. Avinu Malkeinu, katvenu b'sefer tzlicha u'mechila. Avinu Malkeinu, Hamtzach Lanu Yeshua B'Karov. Avinu Malkeinu, Zachor Ki Afar Anachnu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu V'Al Ol Aleinu V'Tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Aseh Laman Harugim Al Shem Kodshecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Aseh Laman Shimcha. Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora. Shenikra Aleinu. Together. Avinu Malkeinu. Chanenu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu. Chanenu Vaneinu. Kien Banu Masi. Aseh Imanu. Tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu. Chanenu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu. Chanenu Vaneinu. Kien Banu Masi.
Yasher Koach. You may be seated. First, I just want to say excuse me and thank you to the people who came and did a very painful chest maneuver on me to get me to stop coughing and brought me hot water. So thank you for both of those things. I want to share a quote from Pirkei Avot. Rabbi Elazar HaKapal said, "Do not let your impulse assure you that the netherworld is a place of refuge for you, because against your will you were created, and against your will you were born, and against your will you live, and against your will you die, and against your will you are destined to give account and reckoning before the sovereign of sovereigns, the Holy One, blessed be God." There's a book I fell in love with this year called Detransition Baby by Tori Peters. And most of the book's main characters are trans women, and at one point, one of them, named Reese, writes, quote, "If you are a trans girl who knows many other trans girls, you go to church a lot, because church is where they hold the funerals," end quote. There are so many of them, she explains, as the tragic results of murders and of suicides. Reese goes on to list the 3 reasons why she personally attends pretty much every single one of the funerals. The first reason is that they are, as awkward as it is to say it, core social events in her community. And the third reason is to show her community and herself that she is able to truly grieve and support other mourners. But the second reason is the one that sticks with me and that I've thought about a lot ever since reading the book. Quote, "The second reason, funerals remind Reese not to kill herself. Not because she so badly wants to live, but because suicide as a trans girl leads to a mortifying posthumous stripping of all that you cherished by friends and strangers alike. If you are not there to stop them, the loudest, brashest, and clumsiest of your semi-acquaintances will scoop up all that was once you and simmer it down to a single mawkish narrative, plucking out all that is inconveniently irreducible and inserting in its place all that is trite and politically serviceable. The word mortifying, as in existentially embarrassing, has at its root the Latin for death. So if Reese seeks to avoid mortification, she cannot kill herself. She simply must not die." End quote. Reese spells out the last piece of Rabbi Elazar HaKapar's statement bluntly and clearly. When we are alive, we at least have the chance to make our own names, to show the world who we are, to control our narratives. Once we're dead, as Rabbi Elazar HaKapar put it, our account and reckoning will be given. People will be talking about us and remembering us. But as Tori Peters says via her character Reese, it's against our will. We no longer control the account. We lose control of our account when we die, but that loss doesn't just happen when we take our last physical breath. It's possible to give up without actually dying. It's possible to abdicate control of our narrative while still technically being alive. It sounds a bit dramatic, giving up on life, letting the world flow on around you, but if we dig deep and really think about it, I think many of us can actually relate to that state of being one way or another on a pretty regular basis. First of all, there's a form of optimism that looks a lot like giving up control. Everything's going to be all right. Let Jesus take the wheel, or the Jewish equivalent, gamze latova. This is also for the good. Lay back and relax. We do, as Jews, have one day of the week set aside for that attitude, for Shabbat, for mandatory peace, but the flip side is that we have 6 days of the week for work. But sometimes the work that's laid out for us as caregivers, as professionals, as partners, as political citizens in the world, as physically and mentally ailing human bodies. And otherwise, it's overwhelmingly daunting. We can literally be overwhelmed. And we can give up control in another way, falling into a state of dejection and melancholy, convinced that a better world is impossible and that our efforts won't make a difference to get us there. Nothing can be done. Both sides of abdication, both types of abdication are two sides of the same coin. They're coping mechanisms for a world of upheaval, of chaos, of destruction, of pain, whether on a personal level or a communal level or a global level. When the work feels like it's just too much, sinking into the couch, self-medicating ourselves out of focus, putting up with the horror around us and putting our dreams aside, giving up can feel tempting, and sometimes just plain mandatory. When we go there, we are technically alive, but as Reese would put it, it's mortifying, existentially embarrassing. We are no longer our quirks, our passions, our commitments, and our loves. We are reduced to whatever the loudest voices around us are passionate about and making happen. We're along for that ride, that very ride that inspired us to sink into that couch, whatever that ride might be. Just to be clear, I'm not passing judgment, or at least I am the queen of lying on the couch, doom scrolling through Twitter and watching worthless shows at the end of a hard or even medium day. And I know a lot of you can relate. And while we're lying on the couch like that, beyond the point of relaxation, veering into abdication, nothing in our personal lives is improving. Nothing in our community is improving. Nothing's getting better for anyone except perhaps for the folks who are energized, doing something, but how do they have the energy? Physically, how do they have the energy? Spiritually, how do they have the energy? This year, I had the opportunity to participate in a rabbinic fellowship through Hadar's J.J. Greenberg Institute for the Advancement of Jewish Life, named for the late son of Rabbi Yitz Greenberg. Rabbi Yitz Greenberg, an incredibly influential rabbi who I coincidentally quoted in a sermon last Kol Nidrei before getting into the fellowship, is someone with whom I've always been fascinated ever since I learned about his legacy. Now he's almost 90, and he and his wife, Blue Greenberg, have long been at the forefront of what many now call open orthodoxy, a deeply progressive, intellectually exploratory, and feminist wing of Orthodox Judaism. Through this fellowship, I had the opportunity to learn from Rav Yitz, as folks call him, with a couple dozen other rabbis from all different denominations and backgrounds. As diverse as we were in most of our thinking, we were all pretty fascinated by Rav Yitz. I think we saw him as both an anchor in our tradition and as a sail into the future. And for me, that trust and fascination was because of the way he thinks about suffering and has handled his own suffering in the past and continues to do so today. Rav Yitz was born in 1933, so like some of you, he grew up during the Holocaust. Born and raised in Brooklyn, he went to Jerusalem on a Fulbright as a young parent in 1961 and was surrounded by what felt like an unbelievable dichotomy. He had this beautiful new baby and this opportunity to marvel in and be a part of this renaissance of Jewish learning in a Jewish state. At the same time, he was surrounded by recent survivors of the Holocaust, spending more and more of his free time sitting in Yad Vashem and reading about the horrors of the Holocaust. On paper, his life was perfect. In reality, he was spiraling. What did it mean to be a religious Jew, to have a relationship with God and mitzvot, when such nightmares were possible? As he put it, quote, "The grip of death and destruction penetrated and froze me to the bone. Shock followed shock. Outrage, humiliation, and fear took over, and soon my religious life was invaded by tormenting doubts and moral revulsion. How could God have allowed this to happen? Where was God? The event seemed to make a mockery of the prayers I had mouthed all my life, and of all the hopes, expectations, and norms in which I had always been so firmly and happily ensconced." End quote. Who else has looked around them and felt the same way? Moral revulsion, outrage, humiliation, and fear. A mockery made of our prayers, hopes, expectations, and norms. Rav Yitz's story resonates for so many of us. Spiraling into this focus on the Holocaust was not, of course, the only dark place Rav Yitz would find himself in his life. The very fellowship that brought me to learn with him was named for his son, who was hit by a car while riding a bicycle and died at the age of 36. As he was teaching us this past year, Rav Yitz was also struggling with cancer. And yet, Rav Yitz's time in that dark place, sinking into the reality of the Holocaust, completely shifted his thinking about what it means to believe in God or to be in relationship with God in this moment in time. See, he'd grown up reading Torah stories, like so many of us have, about God's covenant with humanity and with the people Israel. Picture the rainbow after the great flood. Picture God's promise to Abraham that his descendants would be as numerous as grains of sand, you couldn't even count them. God blessed families with babies after years of infertility. God freed the Israelites from slavery. God gave us the Torah. God led us to the promised land. As the story goes, God acted, sometimes in mercy and sometimes in anger, but always with purpose. But then we look around and we see that things clearly do not make sense. They are not divinely willed. Bombs and guns ravage communities and take life after life. Scared, hungry people flee from danger, losing everything, with no real welcome on the other side. Individuals are forced into childbirth, unable to receive basic health care. Folks still live in tents and in overcrowded prisons, the racial disparity impossible to miss. No divine intervention. In the Torah, God sounds tremendous, enormous. In our lives, God feels shrunken. There's a word for this, tzimtzum. Divine self-limitation. The ancient rabbis taught that God self-limits, shifted to a world in which humans can act freely in every way. God is expressed through the laws of nature, not by exceptions or miracles or redeemers swooping in. The power is in the hand of human beings to work miracles of sorts, to uncover revelation and learning, and to bring us into a better future. Or not to do that, as the case may be. God, embedded within all of nature, is right here for all of it, but not really in charge. Miracles of any sort are up to humans. Revelation of any sort is now up to humans. Redemption, any chance we've got, is now up to humans. And depression is also incredibly human. Fantasizing about death, sinking into that couch, existential dread, and just sorrow are so very human. Our most trusted and influential teachers have been there. Our most beloved and joy-eliciting artists have been there. Our great-great-great-great-grandparents have been there. Let's be honest. I've been there. You've been there. I think the power of my learning with Rav Yitz has been twofold. We've all been there, and we'll be there again, and might even be there right now. And this Kol Nidrei, this Yom Kippur, As our machzor reminds us again and again that this is our time to make change, to turn around, to save ourselves, I feel the weight of the work, that it is our responsibility to create light when the dark moments arise, to be that source of revelation for each other, to be that hope of redemption in the world, not because we don't feel the weight and the grief and the exhaustion, not because we aren't often vacillating between jaded and horrified, somewhat immobilized either way, but because, as the fictional Reese put it, we, the plural we, humanity, simply must not die. Our story isn't finished, and we are the only ones who can author it. We just addressed our pleas to God to seal us in the good book of life, in the good book of redemption and deliverance and sustenance and livelihood and merit and forgiveness and atonement. We ask that God do this for us and write our story this way, but we know deep down that God works through us, not for us. Chanenu va'anenu, aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed. Be gracious with us and respond to us. Deal with us in righteousness and love. The grace, the righteousness, and the love we know must come from somewhere deep within us. It is ours to rise up and respond. So please rise as you are able. And we'll turn to page 164 for the Kaddish Chitkabah.
V'chayechanu yemechanu v'chay l'chol Beit Yisrael v'agolav izman kori v'yimeru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mavorach v'yalam ulal me'al maya yitparach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitpumam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitala v'yitalal shmei dekudesha rilchu leila uleila min kol birchata v'shirasa tushbechata v'nechemata damiran b'yama v'yimeru. Amen. Tikabel tzloton v'oton l'chol Beit Yisrael kadam uvon divishmaya v'yimeru. Amen. Yehei shalom aravim v'shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mram hav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimeru. Amen.
We continue. Oh, go for it.
Holding Rabbi Hannah's call to hold that it's on us, we turn to Aleinu on page 165.
And I'd like to invite Alan Schusterman, Hilchavara's executive director, up to open the ark for us.
Do you remember your key?
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol u'atet gedula l'yotzer breishit shelo asanu k'goyei aratzo velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chalkeinu kahem v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonah V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu she'unot hashamayim v'yotzer haaretz u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim mima'al Ushkinatu zo, begave meromim, Eloheinu Einod, Emet Malkeinu Efezulato, Kakatuv Betorato,
V'yadata hayom, v'yadata hayom v'hashivota elevavecha. Ki Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim imah, v'yaharetz mitachai eino. Hashevota elevavecha
Ki Adonai Hu Elohim V'hashevota elevavecha Ki Adonai Hu Elohim V'ne'emar V'Adonai L'melech al kol haaretz Bayom ha'hu yeh Adonai echad U'shemo echad.
Yasher koach. You may be seated, and I'd like to welcome the Shine Sherman family to lead us in a poem by Judy Chicago. We're on page 167 in the middle of the page.
And then all that has divided us will merge, and then compassion will be wedded to power, and then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind, and then both men and women will be gentle, and then both women and men will be strong, and then no person will be subject to another's will, and then all will be rich and free and varied, and then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
Shakwach. A vision in our minds. I'd like to welcome up the chair of Hil Chavara's Board of Directors, Aaron Hiller, for some announcements.
So first of all, in the spirit of the day, I apologize for missing lighting the candles earlier. I knew better because Eleanor warned me that we were going to be late. I went back for the good kippot anyway. I shouldn't have done that. I apologize. I'll do better next time. Thank you for covering for me. Our service begins tomorrow at 9:30 right here. We'll conclude around 12:30, and at 1:30, you can go online and join us for meditation with Rabbi Hannah. We'll resume here at 5:30 for Yizkor, and Ne'ilah at 6 o'clock. We'll have the whole shofar brigade back up here again. For more on any of this programming and lots more, please visit hilhavara.org. On behalf of the Board of Directors, have a safe and easy fast.
Thank you. As we begin to turn our thoughts to our loved ones whose memories might be that much more on our minds this time of year, I'd like to welcome the Erdrich Moreno family to lead us on page 168.
we remember them. At the rising of the sun and its setting, we remember them.
At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them.
At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them.
At the
Blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember them.
At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them.
At
The beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. For they are now a part of us as we remember them.
When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them.
When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them.
When we have joy we crave to share, we remember them.
When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them.
When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we remember them.
As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. Yasher koach. So, if you're in mourning, if you've lost a loved one in the past year, I invite you to rise. And if you are observing a yard site, a loved one has passed this time of year, in the year past, I invite you to rise. If you're rising at home, live streaming this, I invite you to share the names of your loved ones, rising in body or in spirit at home, I should say. And if you'd like to share the names of the folks you're thinking about as well, please do so. If it's your custom to rise for the mourner's Kaddish, I invite you to rise. Page 169, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitz gadal v'yitz kadash shemei rabba.
Amen.
Ve'alma divra chiyutei ve'amlich malchutei. V'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. V'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shemei rabba mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו לעילה ולעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירה בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו, Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and may the memories of all those we remember be a source of comfort, of love, of growth, and of blessing. You may be seated. We conclude our service singing together words of peace, the last two lines of the Kaddish. Useh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. So Much gratitude to all who are a part of this service on the bima and behind the scenes, in your seats and on live stream, and to all who made it possible. Have a safe fast if you're able to fast, and a meaningful evening. We'll join again tomorrow at 9:30. Laila Tov.